How are we doing? Good? Everybody can hear me and see thumbs up and back. That's good. If we're too loud, you tell us. Welcome, everybody. My name is Cameron Clark, and I work in the Sustainability Office here at Davidson College. We had to shout out Davidson at a Sustainability networking event. It was a job at training getting highlighted. We had to convince people that the community was worth it and show. So, yeah, thanks. I manage the Sustainability Scholars program here along with our director, Nancy Boucher. And again, thank you, welcome. housekeeping things. Thank you all for going ahead and getting food. Feel free to go back and get more at any time, drinks, all that sort of thing. If you haven't found restrooms yet, they're to the right out of the door, just past the couches. We can all make believe like we're student athletes today. But yeah, before I turn things over to the scholars, the folks you're actually here to hear from, I want to just take a moment to share a little bit about what the Sustainability Scholars program is and why it matters. And I know that a lot of y'all are pretty familiar with the program already, but we do have some new folks in the room, and a lot of you get a specific window into the program, maybe as a supervisor or a Friday host or something like that. So I think it's helpful to zoom out for a moment. And so we're really fortunate at Davidson to have brilliant students who want to have a positive impact on the world. We also have incredible faculty, so shout out to some of my faculty colleagues that are here today, who are teaching students key concepts and challenging them to understand systems and think critically. The difficulty for our students is figuring out where they want to be in the incredibly interdisciplinary and broad field of sustainability. Right? And that's where Sustainability Scholars can help. The best way for our students to discern a professional path forward is to try stuff and to talk to people. And so that's what we do. We place students in 8-week internships with organizations in the region based on their skills and interests. And this gives them the opportunity to dive deep and get direct experience in the working world, which you will hear from them about shortly. That deep dive is supported by a cohort experience where they live and learn alongside their peers, and our weekly field trips where we visit different organizations and chat with a wide range of professionals to understand how they try to make an impact. So just a few highlights from this year. I have a full list up, but just a few highlights of what those field trips can look like. We learned about energy generation and economic development with Energy United, including a trip to a nearby solar farm, plus a call with a Davidson alum in renewable energy development later in the day. We visited Freshless, the local food hub, to understand how they support local agriculture by serving as a connector between farms and local restaurants. And we hiked around a conserved property with the Catawba Lands Conservancy and Carolina Thread Trail staff, so shout out to Bailey, getting to know both local ecosystems and how they protect natural spaces in a rapidly growing region. Plus many more, just a little window into, especially if you're a supervisor, you might not always get to see some of these other experiences students get to have. And of course, before I move on, throughout this process, we're supporting these students on campus, providing professional development, mentorship, and things like that. We have a few different ways of assessing the impact of the program, but of course, maybe the most fun and particularly fun demonstration of impact is when program alums land jobs in the field, especially when they're local. So I have a few quick shout outs to some folks in the room. Bailey Scarlett, if you'll raise your hand, Bailey. Make sure y'all introduce yourselves to these recent graduates. But Bailey just wrapped up a year as a Davidson Impact Fellow with the Catawba Lands and the Carolina Thread Trail, and just took on a full-time role as an Operations and Volunteers Associate. Owen Lucky, right next to him, is a staff member at Hart Hickman in Charlotte. And Taft Terrell, there it is. Taft is the Data and Program Support Specialist at Clean Air NC. So thank you all for joining us today. And you may have picked up on the fact that Taft was hired by one of our partners, Clean Air NC, which was his Sustainability Scholars host organization. And I would not say that this is normal, but I'm really excited and proud that he's not the only 2026 grad to get hired by their host organization. We also had Sydney Kellgren get hired to work with Everblue, and Jillian Freeze to work with the Catawba Nation Natural Resources Department, who didn't host this summer but have hosted scholars in the past. So this is, of course, a testament to the awesome work that our students do as interns. But I do warn them all the time that I'm going to take credit for all of their future work, so here we are. Alright, and I may have buried the lead a little bit, but the 2026 cohort is a special one, as it marks 15 years of the Sustainability Scholars program. So let's do a little clap. And since it's something we're celebrating, we're excited. We in the Office of Sustainability are excited to be partnering with the Environmental Studies Department and Davidson Outdoors to host a sustainability reunion this fall, October 9th through 11th. So feel free to come and ask Nancy and I, some of the other partners in the room, a little more about that if you're interested. And in addition to the recent grads I just talked about, these programs have alumni from a wide range of class years that are making an impact in their personal and professional lives. And we're just really excited to have those alums back to campus. We're hopeful this event will build connections across generations of Davidson alums as they join us to learn, network, and celebrate key milestones for the college, including 15 years of Sustainability Scholars. All right, I'm almost done, but I got to take a little time to say thank you. 15 years doesn't happen without a lot of help. So, first off, a huge thank you to all of our donors. No matter the size of the gift, your demonstration of support is an invaluable reminder that Davidson needs to be a leader when it comes to sustainability. And a special thank you to the donors who have established endowed funds, which are immensely helpful in supporting the long-term viability, some might even say sustainability, of this program. So special thanks to Elizabeth Lusk, who established the Elizabeth L. Lusk Class of 85 Sustainability Scholars Fund. Special thanks to Dr. Sam and Diane Glasgow, who established the Class of 64 Fund. And one additional thank you for an endowment we're not quite ready to announce yet, but that will also support the Sustainability Scholars Program moving forward. Thank you to all of our campus supporters of the program, whether it be through encouraging students to apply, orientation programming, or for helping me reserve the van, reserve transportation. All of those things are so helpful, so shout out to all of those folks. Thank you to everyone who took the time to host us, meet with us, and chat with us during our Friday excursions. Thank you in particular for your willingness to share your own personal and professional journeys with the group, as those stories and lessons can be deeply influential. People really are surprisingly and impressively willing to be vulnerable about their path, and that's really meaningful to the students and myself. And finally, last but certainly not least, thank you to our scholars, host organizations, and site supervisors. This program truly would not be possible without you, so thank you for your time, your energy, your wisdom, and your dedication to supporting the next generation of sustainability leaders. All right, so with that, I have the pleasure of handing things off to David, who's going to kick us off with scholar presentations. We are just going to kind of move through these one by one. We don't have time for questions, but we do have this room for a little while after the presentation, so I encourage you to come and ask them all your nosy, deep technical questions afterwards. So, take it away, David.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, sorry, I threw you off.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming through today. My name is Steve Anderson Laura. I'm class of 2028, majoring in philosophy, politics, and economics. And this summer, I got to work with WFE as a climate reporting intern. So, as a reporter, I got to cover a variety of topics. The two issues that I keep on discussing over and over again were data centers and the heat. Coming into this internship, I came in during a pretty hot time of the summer, whenever we were going through a drought and just pretty extreme heat all around. And I got to cover that in such a variety of ways. One of my favorite stories was actually going to a farmer's market and talking to farmers, learning all about how the heat impacted their crops this year. And that was particularly impactful because I've grown up as a farmer since the age of 5. But beyond that, I also got to hear stories from senior citizens and disabled people who got fans to help out during the heat, during these really, just hot times. But talking about hot times, the discussion topic that was happening during Charlotte this entire summer were data centers. Coming in within my first 2 weeks, there were discussions of the moratorium and then the procedural vote that got passed. But moving a little bit beyond Charlotte, one of my favorite stories, or if not my favorite story of the entire summer, was covering a data center in my backyard. I grew up 35 minutes away from Davidson, a small town called Conover. And whenever I went back home for a weekend, I drove by my little Walmart and I saw this neighborhood that had a bunch of construction around it. I then went onto Facebook and found out that there was a data center being made around this small neighborhood. I proceeded to go interview the neighborhood and learn about how the dust, the sound, and the general worry of them really impacted them. I then proceeded to go talk with the city leaders, and I even got a little bit of the state from Microsoft regarding all of what the data center entailed. It truthfully was so impactful to portray and explain and amplify voices that wouldn't be heard. But really, what did I grow out of this internship? And I think if I had to describe it in one sentence, it would be talking to random strangers and asking about their stories. I got to talk to people like bug enthusiasts at 11 p.m. who had their flashlights looking at moths and letting them fall over their hands and getting to learn so much about their own thoughts and enjoyments of everything. I also got to take a pretty step into nature and go on a fun nature walk for 5 hours where I had tea made from leaves and blueberries and just a variety of stuff you could pick up. But beyond that, I also got to hear stories from my fellow interns, Clara Otani, a Davidson student, and Nora Maziar, a Duke student. I got to hear so much about their own experiences throughout college, specifically from Nora, who goes to a different university and was able to give me such a different perspective. But really, it was just so fun being able to just step into someone's world for a day, ask them questions about their day-to-day, and learn their story. But beyond that, and that's what the class is for, I also got to feel a little bit of protection therapy. Specifically, one of my favorite tales to say is talking about the old grandma who was playing cards at the senior citizen center, who proceeded to tell me, "Hey boy, you have 2 minutes, I have 30 minutes of card time, and I'm not about to lose it." She really, put into perspective how important that time was, so I made it real quick. But beyond that, this entire summer I learned how to use my voice. I've never done radio before, so that was a huge fear of mine stepping in. Thankfully, with the help of WFE staff, I was able to figure it out decently quickly. But beyond that, it really just to expand my ability to write and use my voice, even in print. But overall, some program reflections. Again, as I said, I'm pretty local to the area, so I got to explore Charlotte a lot earlier on in my life, but this was a new experience. I was now a young adult with more than $20 to go to the mall. I got to go to Camp Run with my good friend Nana Sinha, and I got to go to graduate stores, I got to go to used bookstores, and yada yada yada. So really, being a young adult kind of just showed me what it might look like to move back here in 10 years. But I also got to go walk in nature, learn more about how not to be busy. This is my first time ever not having 2 or 3 jobs. So having afternoons to myself was just very lovely for personal development. But beyond that, I got to learn about my future and possible options through our Friday programming, where I got to see a variety of ways that people use their backgrounds in so many different fields, from banking to land conservancy to even development. I was able to learn so much about such a variety of things, which takes me to my next slide. My thank you slide. I really want to thank Karen Clark, Yancy, the sustainability authors for making this entire program possible. The ability to curate such different experiences every single week alongside partnering us with great organizations is something that I will be forever grateful for. But beyond those two, I also want to thank Zach Turner, my supervisor, raise your hand. that WFB's climate reporter, and Eli Portel, our editor-in-chief, for giving me their time day in and day out, giving me edits, and just being able to talk to me about my stories every single week. Overall, this experience was so powerful and just very revolutionary when it came to, what I see myself doing in the future. Thank you all so much, and I'm happy to be passing the mic next to Salem Morrow.
Okay, hi everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Salem Morrow. I am class of 2028, and this summer I had the incredible opportunity to intern with Spring Clean as the Summer College Fellow. Now, before I kind of dive into my experience, I do want to kind of give a very brief description of what Spring Clean is. So, Spring Clean is a sustainable fashion nonprofit organization dedicated to diverting waste from landfill by turning clothes and giving them a second life. And we do this through our 5R framework, which consists of reuse, rental, repair, renew, and recycle. Now, one of the most important parts of working at Spring Clean is getting familiar with this framework, as it's something that we use on a daily basis, as well as the core values. And one quality of Spring Clean that I have grown to really admire is just the priority taken in people, and there being such an emphasis of, caring about people just as much as the environment. And throughout this process, I really adopted this mindset of it's the people who make the organization, not the organization that makes the people. So I think that that's really been something that I've carried with me throughout this process. So every day at Spring Clean looked a little different. There's a lot of variety to what I was doing every day. So this made everything very unique, but also, very exciting, something to look forward to coming to work every day. So I know there's a lot of stuff up here, but some of my favorite things that I got to be a part of were mostly focused on the design side of things. So for me, that looked like designing flyers in Canva for events, or creating content using different social media platforms, or just getting to work with different sustainable fashion resale apps like Depop, some more companies that I wasn't familiar with, so getting to work in the retail side of a nonprofit organization. I also got to attend different workshops that we hosted, actually get to make alterations for real clients that came in, and one other cool thing is getting to have a lot of networking opportunities with the Green Sports Alliance. So getting to actually collaborate and connect with sustainability professionals from different teams like the Memphis Grizzlies or the Miami Heat. Really cool getting to meet different people in those fields. And I think that every experience, honestly, on a day-to-day really strengthened my communication, organization, and leadership skills throughout my entire experience. And initially going into this internship, I kind of had this expectation that by the end of it, I would have this singular physical project to talk about. But I learned very quickly going into Spring Clean that my internship is more about the experience of Spring Clean and experiencing what a small nonprofit looks like and the reality of that. So instead of just talking about one thing that I worked on, I'm just kind of split this up into 3 different highlights from the experience, just some of my favorite things that I got to be a part of. So, starting with highlight 1, one of my biggest highlights was just, in general, the people that I got to be surrounded with and got to collaborate with. I had the incredible opportunity to serve as a mentor to 7 high school interns, James, Zoe, Simone, Samantha, Marcus, Harmony, and Jacorden. All such incredibly talented young adults, and it was an absolute joy to get to work with them on a day-to-day basis. So this was a really cool experience, honestly. It was a very rewarding experience getting to be in that mentor position, which is something that I was not familiar with, and getting to be in that leadership role as a role model to everybody, and getting to teach my skills to them and have a direct impact on them, and not only watch their confidence grow in their abilities, but to watch my confidence grow in my leadership skills and being in that role. And I think that it made a really big impact on their lives. So another part of that is on top of that, managing and organizing the shop and inventory during a time of transition, which I think really showed me how valuable adaptability is in a small nonprofit. And I think that it really made my work feel like it was truly making a difference and that I was truly having an impact with everything that I was doing. There was a lot of intention with everything that I was creating. This kind of goes into my second highlight as far as leadership goes. As I mentioned earlier, Spring Clean hosts a lot of workshops, so being in the position that I am, I have the privilege to get to lead and host my very first sewing workshop where I got to mentor 4 individuals on just basic sewing techniques, operating a machine inventory, machine repair, how to cut fabric, all things sewing related. And once again, it was such an incredible experience. It was very outside of my comfort zone. I've never been, a teacher, but I think that it really helped me to improve in my just confidence in leading a group of people. And it was also, once again, very incredible to see that I was making a direct impact with somebody and that people were getting to leave with new skills found, and I was able to provide that. So for my final highlight, this kind of was something that came towards the end of the internship process, but I was tasked with creating and curating a college chapter growth plan for Spring Clean. So basically what this looks like is I had to create outreach to different colleges across the Carolinas to kind of propose Spring Clean being a chapter on their campuses. And for that, I focused mostly on college campus move-out processes and what that looks like for each campus, and kind of networking with different sustainability professionals on those campuses to maybe see how Spring Clean might serve to get students involved and make move-out a more sustainable process. So for this, I kind of just drafted a blueprint for this entire project and created the framework, creating different like Excel sheets and spreadsheets and documentation to record all of the responses that I was getting, and just kind of setting up that framework for future interns or future members of Spring Clean who want to carry out this project. So this kind of goes into my reflection. I have a couple of just like themes that I, just takeaways, but honestly I feel like in my highlights I really hinted that there's a lot. So aside from that, I just want to say a huge thank you to Ms. C.T. Anderson for serving as my mentor this summer. It has been an absolute privilege working under her. I've deeply admired her work ethic, her passion for sustainability and fashion. She's had such an impact on my life, and I am completely grateful for your guidance, mentorship, and patience and trust in me this summer. It has been an incredible opportunity to learn so much in such a short amount of time with you. Also, a huge thank you to Cameron and Yancy for continuing to lead such an incredible program. Not to, be a teacher's pet or anything, but I would say, this is such an incredible program, and I think that everybody, needs to understand that, this is such a great outlet for anybody who is, whether they're super interested and passionate about sustainability or just curious even. I mean, for me, I was passionate about sustainability and fashion, but had absolutely no idea what that could look like in a professional setting, and I think that this program provided the perfect outlet for me to be able to see what that can look like on its feet in the reality of sustainability and fashion and, in the professional setting. And this program really allows for so many different opportunities for students, to network and also just to see the different avenues that you can take with sustainability, because there's so much out there in this broad category. And yeah, this has been an absolutely incredible experience. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sammy Shirley. I am a senior here at Davidson. I'm studying environmental studies, and this summer I got the privilege to work with the town of Davidson. And I kind of just want to start off by talking about local government. I think we see a fallen tree in the town, or you see cones up, maybe the trash is overfilling, and you kind of just don't really know where to locate your questions. And for myself, being at Davidson for almost 3 years now, it's like I didn't understand local government in the ways that I was taught. And I think there's something to say about the Sustainability Scholars program. And going into it, I couldn't really see myself in a tangible position. And I think through this program with Friday excursions and my experience with the town, it really built out my outlook for my future careers and just my interests. And I really learned about everything. And so, two of my main projects this summer, the first being the Climate Action Plan. And if you don't know what that is, it is a comprehensive plan that not only sets climate goals, but prioritizes education, that informs the community, that works towards not only making the community more green, but making the community more safe, and those work in tandem. And I think Kayla does a great job at making this accessible to the town, and she really helped me out this summer to not only understand it, but to be able to work on it. And yeah, so these broad categories over here, I worked under some of them, but I do think that there's overlap with every single one of those as well. So this summer, I worked a lot with the carbon reporting, and before this year, the town of Davidson didn't have a way to track electric vehicle emissions. And when you think electric vehicles, you don't necessarily think emissions, but when you charge an electric vehicle, you pull from the e-grid, and the e-grid ultimately emits carbon. And so I helped the town create a system where we can track electric vehicle emissions. And in the future, we will be able to hopefully have more cars in the fleet that are electric. And so we can push these initiatives. And I also worked on projections. So accounting for a growth in the fleet and then seeing how much emissions would happen if we did have an increase in the fleet while also prioritizing electric and renewable vehicle in the fleet. So I also worked on a plastic-free challenge rebrand. I think a lot of people, especially now in local government, struggle to have their own initiatives while still being constrained under the state government. And so the town of Davidson does a great job at bringing awareness and action to the town while still working around the state government's sort of the changes in administration. So the Plastic Free Challenge is a way for the community to draw attention to plastic, specifically single-use plastic waste. And they can participate in that for the month of July, and it just helps bring awareness. And I helped sort of redesign the logo. I think a lot of people saw this name and saw it as an absolute, something that you have to completely adhere by, and you can't waste, like you have to basically be completely plastic free, which nobody can do. So by changing the name and sort of framing it differently, I think it's become more accessible to people. And that kind of just goes to say, overall, I think everyone comes from different contexts and everyone has a different view of sustainability, and some people don't view it as something that does exist. And I think going through all of these Friday excursions, meeting people in the town, meeting community members, really showed me that not only does sustainability look different to everybody, but there is hope for sustainability in ways that not everyone may see. So companies that might not have sustainability in the name or might not be focused on environmental initiatives at face value are working towards a greener future, and that there is hope for sustainability in very different ways. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of this program, even coming home at the end of the day and talking to people about their experiences at work And there's quite a lot of overlap with our experiences, and I think it's created a community within ourselves and a community within the professional world. And as a young professional, I'm excited to go out, and with this experience, I feel very prepared. So I would like to thank Cameron, Nancy, Davidson College, Kayla, and the town of Davidson for not only making this possible, but making it very real.
Okay, hi, my name is Lisa. We're in the class of 2027, and this summer I had the opportunity to work for Clean Air and Sea, which is a nonprofit that advocates for the health of all North Carolinians by pursuing equitable and collaborative solutions that address climate change and air pollution. So first, even though I'm in a room full of people who are definitely very familiar, I just wanted to go over what are these air pollution sources. Some are industrial, mobile, which even includes leaf blowers and diesel engines, and then also nature from plants producing compounds known as VOCs. But I specifically had the pleasure of working with Natalie Smith and the Community Science Program at Clean Air and Sea, which helps make the invisible visible. It fills in the data gaps, which promotes data justice, and it supports advocacy efforts to protect health. And specifically at Clean Air, we use purple air monitors, which are located across the state. That's this map here, which measures PM 2.5 concentration. This refers to tiny airborne particles, 2.5 microns or smaller in diameter. These can be dangerous because these particles are small enough to travel into the lungs and even pass into the bloodstream. And then using the air quality AQI index, this puts these concentrations into a scale for reporting how clean or polluted the air is. So then, during my internship, I had 3 primary projects. First was data analysis. This was specifically for the Northampton County cluster network in northeastern North Carolina. I got to look at the air quality data here since January and got to figure out how can I visualize and communicate it in an interpretable way for their community members. I also got the opportunity to use ArcGIS to create an animation of this AQI index over time, which was a really cool learning process. And I also did the report backs, which is a system that uses Python and RStudio to send out monthly reports to those who have the purple air monitors on their property, which we call air keepers. And then towards the end of my internship, I also got to work with the health program at Clean Air and Sea, which I collaborated with in order to create a resource with individual ways to protect from air pollution. The thought of this was that it could be used for physicians to share with sensitive health groups. And so just for some background, here the arrow is pointing to Northampton County, where I spent a lot of time looking at their data. And then this is the specific monitors I looked at as well, connected with the Title V industrial facilities in the area. And then here's some other visualizations I made. One is just a linear interpretation that visualizes the PM 2.5 concentration spikes over time for each of the monitors, and then the top 15 daily average PM 2.5 concentrations, and then the monthly averages as well. And then overall, reflecting back on the program, it was really cool just to be able to spend all this time behind the scenes looking at the data, but then finally connecting with the community. We had a data review session in Northampton, and it was just really funny. Richie Harding, the lead air keeper in the area, started the review session handing out trophies to those who make a meaningful impact in their community, which is just really cool, and to see all these faces that experience the air pollution day to day. And I'm just really grateful for the exposure to so many different people and industries, and hearing all these different backgrounds, and just asking people their why, what brings them to work every day. It was so inspiring to work with these passionate people from all different backgrounds. And whether it was from the Friday excursions, but also through my meetings with all the different program managers at Clean Air and Sea, it was inspiring. And so overall, I just want to say thank you so much to Nellie Smith and Taft, and the Clean Air and Sea team, and then also to Cameron and Nancy. This has been an incredible experience. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Thomas, and I'm a rising sophomore at Davidson College, and I had the opportunity to work at Sustain Charlotte this summer. Sustain Charlotte is focused on smart development and also alternative transit, which includes biking, walking, buses, etc. So today I'm going to be going through my primary projects, my program reflections, and then my acknowledgements. So I worked primarily on outreach, different programs, writing, and then my main project. So outreach included reaching out to different raffle stakeholders for our big event in October called Oktoberfest. Pull up, little plug. So it was really interesting just to see how semi-corporate emails work. I hadn't done that before, so it was very fun. And then I assisted with programming such as ambassador training, which was training all of our different volunteers, and also our sustainability tour in Midwood Plaza and a party in the park. So being able to help facilitate those events was super meaningful. I also I researched and wrote on the MPTA and the new bus funding and the transition to CATS. And then my main project was working on a transit guide for different areas of Charlotte. So this is my highlight. This was my big project for the entire summer, my little baby. And it was basically making a transit guide for different areas such as north, south, west, etc., and making sure that they were bus accessible. Program reflections. I put a little coffee cup up there to show that I spent a lot less on coffee. Yikes. But mostly it was just so meaningful to see how united people were by this common drive, hearing origin stories. People started out in such different areas of their careers. And I mean, we had people from government, people from corporate, people from nonprofits who we were engaged with. But they were all united by this drive to make the world a better place. And then my acknowledgements, a big thank you to my supervisors, Cameron Clark and Meg Fensel. Big shout out to Meg Fensel. Thank you for trusting in me and having so much patience, driving a lot. And then also my colleagues, Beth, Eric, and Shannon, and my fellow core group members for their support. And then I'm so excited to announce Jackson. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine. I am a rising junior. I'm an environmental studies major, and I got to intern for Bike Walk North Carolina. So they are the state's only bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization. And I want to say thank you to Terry, Kylie, and Oliver, because this is the team. They're a remote organization, and that really wants to be statewide because we get to get people from all over. And I got to learn what it was like to remote. So what was my actual project? You guys seen e-bikes in the news at all? It was that. So I wanted to understand how are e-bikes being regulated, how are they being understood. So I made these visuals. On the left, you can see this whole circle of so many different names that are used to talk about these vehicles. And these are all in actual North Carolina codes. And this map at the bottom right was showing before July 8th that North Carolina was one of the few that didn't have a class 1, 2, and 3 that was split up by speed and whether they have pedals or not. And, July 8th happened this year, the bill changed that, but I still had the process of talking to a bunch of people about this issue of the bus work. So I talked to people that were part of the bike walk board. So that included an electrical engineer, bike law attorney, somebody that was a police sergeant, and a teenage counselor. And wherever I was going this summer, I had a trip to Chapel. I was talking to people that work at bike shops about their opinions on the issue, and also locally in Davidson. And I also reached out to some people that work for the county in educational spaces. So I talked to a lot of people. So I was trying to figure out what people thought was in common with this issue, and it really was that it's a behavior issue, and that municipalities were having a hard time figuring out how to exactly go about this, especially with children was a focus. And I kept hearing it emphasized that we think that there should be more education around cycling and street safety, regardless of if it's electric or not. I think that's just an amplifier of the issue. And so I wanted to understand what's actually going on. So I made an Excel spreadsheet, and I collected, there's 550 municipalities in North Carolina, so that's all cities and towns that are incorporated. And I was like, I can do this, and then I got way too caught up in the details of each of their websites, so I narrowed it down to the top 15 most populated in 2026. And so now there's an Excel spreadsheet, which is a resource for the organization that has all the municipalities, the links to their code, the specific copy-pasted text, and then my summary of what the code means. And I highlighted the specific language that they were using, and I got to put that on a map. So now this was the most recent map that I have. The X's mean that there's no mention of any of the language that I have highlighted, and then the circles are all that they have some type of regulations. And the Excel spreadsheet kind of works with that because you can go to it and be like, okay, what did they actually say? What are they doing? And I came to understand that these issues, like e-bikes or bicycles or how people get around in general, are simple and complicated at the same time. Because simple, there's only so many rules you can make, and there's only so many ways you can go about it. But it's complicated because it's people, and it's complicated because there's a lot of feelings. People have a lot of feelings about how they get around. There's people that are very attached to their modes of transportation, and I think if people see that there's a change away from car dependency, they can also have some very strong feelings about that. And I see that this requires a lot of work to have conversations with people and kind of meet them where they are. And I think I'm seeing the world in new eyes, because no matter where I was going, I was paying more attention to what the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure looks like. I was paying attention to the town of Davidson's code. I was looking at the fact that we have traffic gardens in the county, and part of the cohort experience, I got to tell all my cohort members about everything I was learning, and now they get their dose of that. But yeah, I want to say thank you also to Terry and Kyle for being here, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions I want to talk about it, I would love to talk about it. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Dolan. I'm a rising junior. I'm a biology major and environmental studies minor. And this summer I had the pleasure of working at Crescent Communities, which is a real estate developer based in Charlotte. I worked in stewardship, so environmental sustainability and philanthropy. The primary project that I focused on this summer was pitching sustainability-minded projects to pilot at the River District, which is a master plan community that's alongside the Catawba River that promotes living in a sustainable fashion and alongside nature in an urban setting. My favorite pilot that I recommended was a bike share network to be established so residents can easily utilize the trails and roadways that have specific bike lanes, and the implementation of this bike share would reduce vehicle trips within the community and reduce emissions while promoting active transportation throughout the river district, as the solar-powered walking system would be in the center of the community to promote the use of these trails. I also recommended, due to current drought conditions that we've seen recently in Charlotte, that water recycling measures should be considered for landscaping use, and also to supplement irrigation on the on-site farm. Gray water recycling and rainwater harvesting would be used for these measures, and the recycled water could also be used by the river to rinse off dogs or paddleboards and bikes. And for Crescent communities, the River District acts as a community and a laboratory to test out these pilots that they can otherwise use in their other communities. These recommendations work to tie back to the overall purpose of the River District of connecting residents with nature and sustainable living. With these projects and more piloted at the River District, Crescent will hopefully continue to integrate sustainability within their communities that they create. Other projects that I was excited to work on was the stewardship report that Crescent Communities releases every year, which allowed me to understand and appreciate the overlap between sustainability and philanthropy that Crescent emphasizes. I enjoyed learning how Crescent gives back to their community and was able to engage in some of these opportunities myself. You can see here we had an opportunity to partner with DigiBridge, which is promotes STEM enrichment across Charlotte to students who might not have the opportunity to have these experiences otherwise. And I really valued this experience because I adored learning about STEM growing up, and I was excited for these opportunities to be available to more children across the area. I also spent time learning and working on different green building certifications for the River District, focusing on LEED for Communities, which is a sustainability-focused certification through the U.S. Green Building Council, and Fitwell, which is a public health-focused certification for active design. And then I also learned about One Planet Living, the framework and the guidelines that it promotes, which recognizes the River District as an innovative community, and I found learning the ways that they have accomplished that very interesting. Overall, as a sustainability scholar, I've learned the importance of making meaningful personal connections within the office and in the corporate setting. These connections made my time in the office really meaningful and exciting, and it was interesting to see how all across the office people can connect to make their work more meaningful. I also appreciated how Crescent has specific spaces for professionals to collaborate and come together and connect with each other through women's groups, book clubs, and lunch and learns, and I thought this was a really special way that they create community. I also learned how important intentional communication is from a sustainability perspective in a less sustainably focused space. As Crescent Community is a developing company first, I saw how important marketing your sustainability initiatives and ideas can be to people who don't have a sustainability background. So emphasizing the economic benefits or the resident experience benefits can be super important. By emphasizing the multifaceted ways that sustainability can make an impact, others are definitely more likely to greenlight projects. I would like to thank Erica, who remained as my supervisor, as well as the River District team for being supportive and encouraging throughout my experience at Crescent. And I would also like to thank Cameron and Nancy in the Sustainability Office for making opportunities offered through this program possible. It's been a really special experience. Thank you.
My name is Esther, and thank you all for being here this afternoon. I am a senior right now at Davidson College, and my academic background is in environmental science as well as French and Francophone studies. But I'm here today to talk about my summer, which I spent interning with Evergreen Training, which is a company that does training programs for weatherizations, so making your houses more energy efficient and really targeting to help low-income communities because they typically have the bigger energy burden, which is expensive. And so where I came in is I worked with the workforce development team. I'll just highlight the NCWAP program, which is the North Carolina Weatherization Assistance Program. And my team and I, we really were doing a lot of program management. So people, feedback from the people, and then trying to get numbers to track success. And I think I learned a lot about what it actually means to program manage. There's so many different stakeholders and there's so many different moving parts, and just keeping in touch with people. I also touched West Virginia and Virginia a little bit, trying to help to get data more organized and to just optimize the process to be more efficient. And on the right, that's a screenshot of something that I'm proud of that I'd just like to highlight. So we talked a lot about how we don't want to just do trainings and kind of just let people be. We want to be invested in trying to make sure that we bridge the unemployment gap. So one of the initiatives that I came up with was a newsletter that we can send out to essentially alleviate the burden of people having to try to constantly look for things. So just like, hey, this is a resource, and hopefully help people find jobs, as well as other initiatives like job fairs that we've been doing. So that's just like a slice of what I did with this team. And to quote my lovely supervisor who is in the audience today, this was day one, the orientation I was getting. I remember one said you should never be miserable at work. And that just kind of speaks a lot to the culture at Everview that really puts people first and mission-oriented, put people first. And as you can see, Everview put a smile on my face. So that company culture was really something that I'm reflecting on, was growing really more constantly working together. And then relationship management, not only amongst ourselves, but with the people that were actually thinking of weatherization, the actual weatherization technicians. That was really helpful. So I elected the lunch and learns. I got a chance to sit into one of the trainings that was really helpful, and also just the background of weatherization is an industry where a lot of the seasonal technicians are aging out. So just having that context and how people are actually trying to go to the workforce so the younger generation can get on board. And I'll just keep food as a theme here to say that I also enjoyed Friday lunches. So as mentioned, we have excursions as a program every Friday, and we have lunch together, which is amazing because it's the one time in the week that we have everyone together. And yeah, that was great. So I also hope you enjoy your lunch today. And I'd like to thank definitely the Sustainability Office, Cameron and Nancy, for all the programming. And I'd also like to thank Everview, my colleagues who are here right now, Juan and Nora, who really were friends and also mentored me and worked together really well. And also, in absentia, to thank everyone else that I had the chance to meet, and to thank you all for being here today. That's all for me.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Michaela, and this summer I had the pleasure of working with the City of Charlotte's Office of Sustainability and Resilience as a Davidson junior studying environmental studies and biology here at Davidson. So my primary project working with the office was working on their CDP reporting, which we report to annually as part of our participation in the Global Covenant of Mayors. That's pretty much our city's sustainability commitment. And so the CDP is just a massive questionnaire, all-encompassing of all of our programs, our initiatives, where our funding goes for sustainability, and all of that kind of stuff. And so with this, it's a really big questionnaire. So my strategy was using the Strategic Energy Action Plan, kind of our roadmap for sustainability, which I use to kind of outline and create the responses to our CDP report. And my role in the office came at a really, really exciting time because I'm the first intern following their adoption of the update to the Strategic Energy Action Plan. So we added the plus. And so with that, we have a lot more ambitious commitments as a city. For instance, our goal went from being a low carbon city by 2050 to now we've committed to being a zero carbon city by 2050. And so my role was really emphasizing all of those changes in the update to our plan and making sure that that shines through our report so that hopefully we can get that A when that comes out. And so working in local government, I realized that the summer is hard. I really think one of my biggest takeaways started just with the first team meeting I sat in on, honestly. I realized it really takes rolling with the punches. I think my coworkers did an incredible job at showing how passion leads to innovation and thinking outside of the box. Because I realized that in the national and state context, local government for a city has to deal with funding changes, programming changes, and a lot of challenges that come our way. And so navigating those changes to keep programs up and running successfully so that they can still positively impact our community is something that my coworkers did an amazing job of making an example of. So that's been one of my biggest takeaways so far. But then with that, I've also realized the immense importance of community and connectivity. I think that throughout all of our Friday excursions and throughout stalking all of my coworkers' calendars and sitting in on a lot of their meetings, I always met somebody new, and my coworkers always were able to strike up a conversation with them and know them on a personal level. And so the connectivity that I was able to see across this whole summer is something that I've seen is incredibly valuable and important to this type of work. And I think that, for instance, Robin, I know can go on any of the 50 floors of the Charlotte Government Center and probably strike up a conversation with someone really quickly. And so I just think that that's another takeaway I've had, is that connectivity is just incredibly important. So that's why I'm so grateful that this summer I was able to connect with my amazing team. So a huge thank you to Heather, Robin, Pat, David, and Aaron for all of their support and their mentorship, and then also to Cameron and Miss Yancey. And then just in closing, when I hear sustainability, I go, oh yeah!
Hello everybody, I'm the last one, I promise. My name is Ananya Sinha. I am class of 2028, studying environmental science and mathematics, and this summer I had the opportunity to work with Trade Technologies, which is a manufacturing, it's a manufacturing company focused on heating and cooling solutions. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank Emily Bessling and Nikki Pack for being absolutely a pillar of my experience. I've learned so much from you, Nikki specifically, so thank you, Nikki. As well as Cameron, Clark, and Nancy for making this experience possible. I think I can speak for everyone when I say this has been an absolutely incredible experience, and we're also grateful for you. So I got the opportunity to dip my toes in a lot of different projects and learn a lot of different acronyms. I didn't know there were that many. But two really special ones to me was a RAG agent and working on standardized packaging guidelines for trains. So I'm going to get a little bit into that. So to start with, it's the sustainability retrieval augmented generation. I know it's a mouthful, but agent. This is an artificial intelligence agent, which was really interesting to kind of see that connection where artificial intelligence can work to help sustainability. Essentially, it helps it helps the sustainability team create answers for questions that customers or investors will have. It only specifically takes information from specific documents, such as our sustainability report or the CDP or things like that. So it makes sure that it is very accurate and correct. So there are a lot of different steps into creating this. To start with, obviously, we had to develop this kind of system, message, and documents so that the sustainability agent could work. This was kind of creating instructions and telling it what it could and couldn't do and what it was allowed to answer and what it wasn't allowed to answer. From there, we tested and refined over 500 questions. So it was a lot of questions. I had a really fun time with this. I asked things like, what are scope 1 and 2 emissions to what is the meaning of life? You can guess which ones were answered and which ones weren't. Things like that to further refine the system message and ensure it was answering the correct questions. And then from there, we set up a lot of different documents to ensure that users can use it correctly. So this includes user prompts and things that will help people get the proper answer, as well as a user guide. So that was a really cool experience. The second thing that I did, this was probably the largest scope project that I did, was creating standardized circularity packaging guidelines for green technologies. Currently, they don't have any standardized work for ensuring that all their things that they manufacture are packaged in a specific way. This caused a lot of waste and also a lot of emissions. So I was tasked with creating some sort of guidelines to ensure that all of the suppliers and all of the manufacturing companies were doing this correctly. Sounds a lot more simple than it is. There are a lot of moving pieces to this, from whether suppliers even want to do some of this stuff, whether the communication is there, all these different things were things that I wouldn't have thought about sitting in the corporate world, right? That's something that really happens when you're boots on the ground. So from there, I was able to split up this big project into lots of different smaller projects, including interviewing both operations team members that were working on packaging programs, as well as the packaging engineers. Didn't even know this was a thing, but there are people out there that their whole jobs are to create packaging, which is super cool. From there, that was where I was able to understand where there are problems and where there are gaps in the packaging guidelines that Train has at this moment, and begin to fill those in. From there, I looked at other packaging companies, other companies that had packaging programs to see what they were doing well and what they could improve upon, to look at what we as Train Technologies could do. Looking at historic resources and, as I said, other companies, I began to create that document, which in the coming years will be rolled out to other suppliers, and they will begin using those guidelines, which is pretty amazing. So Train Technologies is saying is we boldly go. And I think this is absolutely reminiscent of what I've learned this summer. I kind of want to split this up into two different things. First, I think that boldly going doesn't mean you have to know everything. You don't have to have everything figured out. Throughout all of our conversations with people from all different walks of life, we began to understand that not everyone's path is linear. There are so many different ways you can get into sustainability, and it doesn't mean that you have to have it all figured out the moment you are 18 years old and entering college. Boldly going can also mean you do the things you love and you do the things that you care about, and from there, you see where you go. Secondly, we boldly go, to me, means that we should take ourselves seriously. I know we're young, and it's scary to be in a room full of professionals and be like, oh my gosh, I have no say, I have no voice, but you do. And I think that it's so important to learn to use that voice and shoot your shot, ask questions, give opinions, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, and that's okay because it's such a learning experience. So I'm so very thankful for this experience because it has put so much more passion into me and passion in my bones, but it's also made me want to be more bold, ask more questions, do more things, and I'm so eternally grateful for this experience. So thank you guys.
All right, well, let's have one more round of applause for our 2026 Sustainability Scholars and our coaches, supervisors, and students. It's an awesome night, as you can tell. Well, that's it. Thank you all for being here again. I'll give a quick plug, supervisors and scholars, if you want to find Nancy, we'd love to get a picture of you together before everybody heads out. But there is not a rush. We have room for a little bit longer, so feel free to grab some extra food. This crowd can help us reduce food waste a little bit, I'm sure. And, chat, ask those questions you have after the presentations. But yeah, thank you again, all of you, for being here, and congratulations, scholars, on a summer of great work.
I know. I'm so excited, and it's clean water.
Oh yeah, she's wearing the dress.